Spark Books here. Today, I'm going to explain the book, How to Have Impossible Conversations, by Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay. Take care, enjoy the book, and have a nice day. How to Have Impossible Conversations, 2019, is a guide to having frank conversations that don't end in tears. Philosopher Peter Boghossian and scientist James Lindsay argue that however prickly the topic, we all profit when we air our disagreements, provided we're out to learn something, not just shout our opponents down. These sparks will explore techniques that facilitate respectful dialogue, from rules of building rapport to the art of convincing your sparring partner to re-examine her assumptions. Key idea number 1, collaborative impossible dialogues are productive. Beliefs matter, they affect our behavior regardless of size. Jackets are worn in cold weather. Why? You think it'll warm you. Other beliefs are more harmful. For instance, voters who believe immigrants are murdering their neighbors may vote for a strong man who promises to protect them. Working together is more effective than telling someone they're wrong and foolish. In our divided and fragmented society, this may seem utopian, but in the coming moments, you'll discover how to have these talks. Higher stakes mean more conflict with competing views. Conversations are impossible when you're both right, but unpleasant debates can be helpful. Collaboration makes impossible conversations productive. Impossible conversation? It's a fruitless dialogue when ideas, opinions, and worldviews seem insurmountable. These conversations lack give and take. Instead of talking, you take turns talking at each other. Nobody listens. Instead, you argue or verbally attack. If someone wants to talk, you can have a productive conversation. Changes in beliefs might be positive or negative. Coercion doesn't work. Besides being unethical, coercion fails, therefore avoid it. After being hit in the head, no one has changed their convictions. It's often a lie. However, discourse has altered many attitudes. Talks are collaborative. Your suggestions help change your mind. As we'll see, this is one reason talks can change people's beliefs. Working together is more effective than telling someone they're wrong and foolish. In our divided and fragmented society, this may seem utopian, but in the coming moments, you'll discover how to have these talks. Key idea number 2, listening changes minds. Consider a dancer's pirouettes or a surgeon's scalpel incision. They're accomplishing sophisticated things on simple foundations. Ballets and surgeries would be impossible without fundamental knowledge. Effective conversation is similar. To learn it, start with the basics. How? Consider your past. Dinner guests, the authoritative know-it-all who treats you like his pupil, someone who listens and asks questions, right? Everyone enjoys being heard. Use this psychological insight in your conversations for tremendous rewards. Listening is the key to persuasion. Talking comes before listening. Why are persuasive arguments ignored? People hate lectures. Lectures convey a message. After saying your bit, the listener must interpret it. This works fine in lecture halls but may backfire in dialogues between equals. Lectures fail for another reason. Kurt Lewin's 1940 study. The US government recruited Lewin to get housewives to eat more offal. This would reduce the wartime meat shortage. Lewin tested 2 methods on 2 women. The first received an informative war effort lecture. The second was asked to propose reasons for this policy. Only 3% of first group women adopted the suggested behavior. The second group had 37%. Conclusion? Self-generated ideas are more accepted than others. Listening. How would you know you're communicating, not talking? Ask, was I invited to share this? If no, you're probably lecturing, so alter tactics. Consider your past. Dinner guests, the authoritative know-it-all who treats you like his pupil, someone who listens and asks questions, right? Everyone enjoys being heard. Use this psychological insight in your conversations for tremendous rewards. Key idea number 3, building rapport makes discussing differences simpler. When do friends disagree, right? Friendship matters more than winning arguments. You can't be friends with everyone. However, friendship may educate us about productive dialogue. Building rapport makes it simpler to converse honestly and discuss disagreements. Friends build rapport. It's being comfortable and trusting someone's motives. Rapport helps friendships survive disagreements. Imagine 2 close friends strongly disagreeing. They'll likely assume each's strong opinions are justified. They will be less defensive and more open to recommendations. This doesn't mean you should befriend strangers. However, rapport should be established before discussing important concerns. Street epistemologists do this daily. Street epistemologists discuss sensitive topics like God's existence with strangers. They do this on the street using ancient Greek philosophers' way. They encourage rethinking through discourse. Building rapport is the only way to avoid offending others. Such chats teach us some things. One is to start with simple questions about names, occupations, etc. Find common ground. You and your conversational companion probably share a lot. You may be expecting parents or neighbors. When matters get hot, remember that you're dealing with a person like you, not an abstract opponent. Avoid parallel speech. When someone mentions their Cuba vacation, you start talking about yours. Asking someone about their vacation builds rapport. Using their experiences to talk about your life, however, breaks this link. Key idea number 4. Plant doubt to sway someone's mind. Can you explain toilets? 2 psychologists asked in a 2001 cognitive science study. Volunteers rated their toilet design knowledge. After explaining how a toilet works to researchers, they had to do it again. Result? Most began confidently but soon realized they didn't comprehend fill valves and overflow pipes. This widespread fallacy can help us change people's minds. To change someone's mind, first sow doubt. According to philosopher Robert Wilson, we overestimate our knowledge because we trust others, like borrowing library books but never reading them. We think we've learned from these unread books. This unread library effect matters. Psychological Science released a 2013 study. It discovered that U.S. political extremism was linked to an illusion of understanding. Even though they knew little about policies, respondents in this survey had strong opinions. This can improve your conversations. Remember how lecturing was less effective than inviting individuals to think for themselves? Let them doubt if you want to change their mind. Modeling ignorance begins. Pretend ignorance to make someone realize their ignorance. Explain. Open inquiries work best. Say, I don't know how mass deportations of illegal immigrants would work. After they respond, ask follow-up questions. Be bold. While pretending ignorance, dig deeper into the topic. What's the goal? Either your partner will admit he doesn't know much or he'll teach you something intriguing. Key idea number 5. Rappaport's rules promotes respect and openness during debates. Misunderstandings are frustrating, aren't they? Deliberately doing so is worse. Once misunderstood, your beliefs don't matter. She's assaulting a straw man, a misrepresentation that's easier to defeat than your true opinion. Conversations are pointless and unfair. Luckily, a simple set of rules prevents this. In Rule 3, you model pro-social behavior for your partner by listing what you learned from them. You demonstrate your expectations. Deferring to your partner's expertise shows respect and transparency. You also invite them to collaborate rather than fight. This guideline shows you value their feedback even if they don't. This alone calms tempers. Rappaport's rules are difficult, especially in the heat of the moment, but they improve interactions. The point: Rappaport's rules promotes respect and openness during debates. How do you critique politely? American game theorist Anatole Rappaport sought a solution. Rappaport's rules is his disagreement checklist. Philosopher Daniel C. Dennett called these 4 criteria the greatest antidote to caricature. They work how? Let's go down the list. Rule 1 is to paraphrase your companion. Be clear and fair. You want them to remark, "Wow, I wish I'd said that." Rule 2 requires listing all points of agreement with your conversation partner. Rule 3 encourages telling your spouse what you learnt from their argument. After following the first 3 rules, Rule 4 allows disagreements. Each regulation is justified. Rule 1, rephrasing your partner's argument shows you're listening. Rule 2 requires emphasizing points of agreement to create a neutral ground for retreating if the dispute turns heated. In Rule 3, you model pro-social behavior for your partner by listing what you learned from them. You demonstrate your expectations. Deferring to your partner's expertise shows respect and transparency. You also invite them to collaborate rather than fight. This guideline shows you value their feedback even if they don't. This alone calms tempers. Rappaport's rules are difficult, especially in the heat of the moment, but they improve interactions. Key idea number 6, not everyone believes in proof. Bill Nye, a science program host, debated Ken Ham, a Christian conservative who built a life-size Noah's Ark, in 2014. Creationism, God created the universe, is the issue. Nye disagreed, citing Darwin's theory of evolution. Facts rarely sway moral or social beliefs. Because people value being good, we favor peer and role model input over facts. Does it mean Bill Nye and Ken Ham will never have meaningful conversations? Nonsense. As we'll see in the following blink, they need to talk differently, not just about facts. The moderator asked Ham and Nye what might change their thoughts. Nye's reply: evidence. Ham's: nothing. Nothing could sway him. Not everyone bases their beliefs on evidence. Ham is hard to understand for evidence-based people. Naturally, this makes talks tough. Bill Nye thinks empirically. They believe the other side missed a crucial piece of evidence. If they could see it, they'd change their opinions immediately, right? Ham may not want evidence. The Hams, unlike the Nyes, know everything. They believe every Bible verse is literal. This conviction is unshakable. Creationism is common. 34% of Americans reject evolution despite overwhelming scientific evidence. They've seen evolution facts. No, they use different criteria. These criteria aren't evidence-based. Some creationists are moral. They consider themselves decent Christians. Peer pressure drives others. Believing the Bible literally helps you fit in with creationists. This makes sense. These are examples of moral and social minds overriding logical, evidence-based brains. Facts rarely sway moral or social beliefs. Because people value being good, we favor peer and role model input over facts. Does it mean Bill Nye and Ken Ham will never have meaningful conversations? Nonsense. As we'll see in the following blink, they need to talk differently, not just about facts. Key idea number 7. If evidential arguments fail, attempt logical queries. An agnostic believes her religious colleague's faith is heartfelt but misdirected. She wants to persuade him. New evidence is her preferred method. She carefully chooses her information and argues. Strange things happen. Her colleague grows more convinced of his rightness as she argues. Finally, ask disconfirming questions. What would it take for someone to change their mind? You could ask Paul what evidence would change his thinking about soul weight. If the German experiment failed, would his conclusion change? We examine logic's power. Hostage negotiators' lessons will aid in the next blink. Most of us have. Evidence sometimes fails. If evidential arguments fail, ask logical inquiries. Ironically, facts often fail to persuade. Their beliefs solidify. This approach provides your opponent a reason to argue. They may fear appearing foolish by admitting fault. Their belief may have cost them time, energy, and money. What should you do if factual evidence fails? Focus on your opponent's belief reasoning. Forget about their logic. Ask several open-ended questions. As we taught, inquiries reveal difficulties and contradictions. Your friend Paul thinks a soul weighs 7 pounds. This seems ridiculous. Empirical data can surely contradict this idea. Let's take Paul's faith seriously. Ask Paul why he thinks this. He says a German scientist did a famous experiment. He weighed hundreds of corpses. A corpse weighted 7 pounds less. For now, accept this view. Let's also ask some follow-ups. Do 4-pound newborns have 7-pound souls? Does that mean a dead infant weighs 3 pounds less? Finally, ask disconfirming questions. What would it take for someone to change their mind? You could ask Paul what evidence would change his thinking about soul weight. If the German experiment failed, would his conclusion change? We examine logic's power. Hostage negotiators' lessons will aid in the next blink. Key idea number 8. Hostage negotiation has many conversation improvement techniques. Philosophers and psychologists, who specialize in tough conversations and problems, have been quoted so far. But a group whose persuasion often saves lives has the last word. Hostage negotiators. As this blink shows, we can learn from their methods. The point: hostage negotiation has many conversation improvement techniques. You can apply police negotiators' tactics even if your conversation partners aren't as demanding as bank robbers. These tips improve discussion. Minimal encouragers. Yeah, I see, and okay are discreet signs to the speaker that you're listening. Minimal encouragers reassure and calm your companion with little effort. Mirroring. This simple verbal strategy shows you're listening. It also shows you understand them. Repeat the previous 2 or 3 words your partner says as an inquiry. I'm simply so sick and tired of people pushing everyone around. You'd respond, keep conversing to get more information. Their comments may be valuable afterwards. You must gracefully go if you want people to change their thoughts. Building a golden bridge is hostage bargaining. This method relies on the idea that people will stick to their guns to save face. This can be as simple as underlining that your problem is hard for everyone, including you. Finally, addressing tiny issues might help start a productive conversation. Negotiate simple issues first. Early agreement on the tiny stuff creates success. When arguments escalate, this environment makes it simpler to be cordial. Here are some ways to improve your communication and end impossible talks. Partisanship is rising. Talking feels pointless. However, moral and political differences can be discussed. Because we've lost how to talk, not ideologies. We can change one another's minds and rethink our beliefs when we listen, stop lecturing, and disagree civilly. To view more content like this, subscribe. Don't forget to like and turn on notifications. The channel really benefits from it. I appreciate you being here.